In this movie, I'm going to talk a little bit about layers. Layers are very useful in a game. They can determine how objects appear, which objects appear, and also how objects interact with each other. And we'll go through all of those. First thing we're going to do, though, is just choose one of my objects in the hierarchy. If I go over to Layer, Add Layer, there are 5 built-in layers in Unity, and many that you can add. I already added a couple. I added a cube layer for my cube, and if I click on the sphere and go to Layer, Add Layer, I added a sphere layer. Now the reality is I can add any layer for any number of objects. Even if I clicked on cube, I could add a sphere layer. The key to this, though, is this. Go back to cube, go over in the hierarchy, and even though you made a layer called cube layer, Unity doesn't know the difference. You have to choose that layer for the cube. Likewise for the sphere, if I go over into the inspector, right, after selecting sphere in the hierarchy, I go to the inspector and I pick sphere layer. Now the sphere resides in the sphere layer, the cube resides in the cube layer. What's interesting about that is if I go up here to layers again and I go to the show hide, if I click on cube layer and hide it, the cube no longer appears. Of course, if I re-click it, it reappears. The sphere layer, I can hide it or show it. Obviously, I can do that in game mode as well. Alright, there's one application of layers. Another application is with lighting. Now, if I click on my point light and I go over to its inspector, if I go down to culling mask, that determines what the light will shine on. And if you watch what happens when I unclick the cube layer, the light no longer shines on the cube. I reselect it and it shines again. If I click the sphere layer, the light no longer shines on the sphere. There we go. The third application of layers is found when you go Edit, Project Settings, Physics. What you'll get down here is what's called a collision matrix. Basically what that does is determines what layers will interact with other layers in regard to the physics, the collisions, the gravity, the friction, all of that stuff. And you can see that everything is checked here. If I were to uncheck it, it would mean that that particular layer would not interact with the other layer in its column. I'm going to recheck it so that every layer interacts with every other layer with regard to the physics. And that's it for layers for now.